So in general, I want to take an opportunity to talk about the Global Attainment Scale, which is just another data collection method. And so sometimes you want to set goals for individuals and have a way of measuring them. This means it's just a way of converting data from one set of scores to another set of scores. And where the anchors are on the scale is often dependent upon what the teacher or the child or the parent or the individual wants to see and how they define improvement. So first you figure out and operationally define exactly what you want to fix, then discuss how important it is to you that it gets better, and what does better or worse mean. You can do this, this measurement is used when a CBM or observation is just not possible. Now you can convert CBM or observation data into a GAS, but sometimes you just can't do it any other way. So this may be in a case for, say, anxiety or depression. You can't really use that for any other, like just doing this as an observation. And there's not a curriculum-based measurement for anxiety or depression. There are some rating scales like the Basque Flex Monitor that should be considered. But aside and apart from that, a lot of the assessment tools for that kind of condition, internalizing problems like anxiety and depression, those are not really designed for progress monitoring. So that's why the GAS exists. So really what you do is you develop a continuum, and you can either do a continuum of quantity, duration, or frequency. And I know at this point you're saying, what? So instead I'm just going to show you this. You would have scaling goals. For the most part, the goals look something like this, where 0 is neutral, and what you would want for better to look like and it would be 1, and a lot better would be 2, worse would look like, and then a lot worse. And so you're setting up a system of data points. And almost all GASs look like this. They might have 3s and -3s, or they might get longer or smaller, but they usually have at least 5 data points, one of which is, so it needs to be set up in such a way that you have an odd number of data points. Because if you didn't have the 0, you just had better or worse, you can't discuss same. So I'm going to show you what this means. So here's an example of what this may look like. You may be vague like this, but for the most part, really you should be more operational in your definition of what this looks like. So this is where you're expecting, etc., etc. So let me show you what that might look like. So we may convert CBM to this, where we have rate of improvement. And so we know that this person, that 50 is where we expect them to be based on where they've been in the past. And if we would expect them to get a little bit better if they're improving 5 points each week. And so the first week they might be at 50, you hit a 0, and so they get that 0. Next week they're at 55, they might get a 1. The following week, now that changes, right? The next week, this may be a 60 as a 1 because they're 2 weeks out. So 50 plus 5 plus 5 more would be a 1. So this is where they are in terms of growth. So in this case, we'd say 1 ROI is 1 growth that week. 2 ROIs would be 2 growth that week. Going down, so decreasing in skills, 1 ROI or 2 ROI. So this right here is one of those things where you're not necessarily anchoring them with these numbers as much as with this construct, okay? So this is going to change weekly. All right, you could have something else, though, like you said, like we talked about earlier, as an observation where the base rate is 40%, and so that's reflected right here, 40%. And then the teacher decides to develop anchors, and she's saying that, ideally we'd have her paying attention 60% of the time. But, if we could just get her up to 50%, that's an improvement. And then if she goes down to 20%, then I'm going to be really concerned and we're going to need to make some changes. So this is operationally defining what we want. Okay? And so in this case, by the way, This one would probably stay the same because her end goal is a 60%. It's not her weekly attainment. And you can do this for any kind of thing. So you would use the exact same way of analysis, single subject design, graphing data, statistical significance. Any of these things can be used with GAS measurement. It's just you replace the GAS points with either the percent or the number correct or the score. And so you will have a single set of standardized data from week to week that's based off of did the child improve or not improve, based off of a teacher's ratings from -2 to +2. Then just a little additional here is report writing. So, when you add these things in, here's just a general example of how you might put in a gap analysis and an effect size. There are other ways to do this. This is just one that was provided so that the individual can see, the person reading it would have some understanding of what's going on. And so we have taken the gap analysis and effect size and put it into a text format. If you'd like to, you can pause this and take additional time to read it. So here are the references that have been used throughout all of the PowerPoints and slides today, and so feel free to review those if you like.